Disinformation isn't just a buzzword. It endangers some of the world's most vulnerable communities. It fuels conflicts, empowers human traffickers, and shelters lives far beyond the battlefield. Good evening, my name is Maia Mazurkiewicz, and welcome to Anatomy of Disinformation. Each year, millions of men, women, and children around the world fall victim to human trafficking. Some are manipulated, while others are lured by the false promise of a well-paying job or romance. And those same tactics are used in war and by authoritarian leaders. Russia's second invasion of Ukraine in 2022 saw the explosion of human trafficking. Ukrainian children were shipped off to Russia by the busload, and Ukrainian refugees were promised new lives in countries around the world, not always in good faith. What methods are human traffickers using, and how can we protect people from this predatory practice? We'll talk about that and more with our first guest.
Gary Miller, head of Asia Desk and chair of international fraud group Mishkondareya LLP. He began his career in Hong Kong, leading litigation teams for top firms and advising major financial institutions on asset recovery across Asia. He's an international litigator with over 44 years of experience, specializing in complex commercial disputes involving fraud, dishonesty, and corruption. Gary Miller founded and led the fraud group, pioneering injunctions for freezing assets, compelling disclosure, and expediting dispute resolution. An expert in offshore jurisdictions, he also advises organizations on bribery and corruption risks, helping leaders manage legal and reputational exposure.
Gary, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us from London today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Today we're talking about a difficult topic, that is human trafficking, and especially it was quite visible in media during the second Russian invasion in Ukraine. During this period of time, there was a lot of human traffickers looking for their victims.
I'm afraid that's the case. Whenever you see a conflict arising, you will see the most visceral, immediate example of trafficking in an environment where people are super vulnerable, they are scared out of their wits, they have no way of checking information, and so a conflict zone like Ukraine is exactly the kind of scenario that traffickers love.
And was that something very specific what happened in Ukraine? There were people waiting on the borders with Ukraine, as also in Poland as we speak.
There were people waiting on both sides, and what was even more terrifying, there were people who were presenting themselves as fake doctors. And so it didn't matter where these victims were, they were vulnerable. When people were injured, they were taken to hospitals, they were approached. Children were being trafficked and recruited when they were in a hospital bed. That's how direct and how severe it is. And
it's happening, as you said, during every single conflict, but also during different crises?
The crises exacerbate what I call the personal edge of disinformation and trafficking. At the other side of the equation, every single day, as you and I are talking, Maya, the traffickers are bombarding us, bombarding the social media platforms that you and I use every day, bombarding them with disinformation in order to sucker in victims. And the more sophisticated the economy, the more sophisticated the internet availability, then the more likely the victims are to fall for the disinformation.
And are there some people more vulnerable than the others? Are victims specifically curated by those human traffickers?
Well, it varies, and of course, the more vulnerable you are, if you've just lost your job, if a member of the family has died, if you've got some form of personal problem, drugs, etc., the more your natural defenses are reduced, yes, the more vulnerable you are. But the way the business that this has become, it's now a $500 billion a year profit made out of trafficking. So you can see that they're not waiting for individuals to become vulnerable. What they're doing is targeting via the internet, via the social media. They're targeting people, and it's a numbers game. It's like a lottery. If they do it enough times, they will catch enough people.
And they are targeting through different job search, as you said, but also romantic relationships. Any vulnerabilities that are out there?
Absolutely. Every single scam that you can conceive of is involved in inducing people to engage. So it's not just trying to get them to engage and get their money. That's only a fraction of the profit that a trafficker can make out of these romance stories and these investment stories. If they can actually induce the human being to put themselves in a position of vulnerability and physical risk, and then they can access them and kidnap them or control them, you can imagine how many times they can convert that body, sadly, into cash. It's not like drugs that you only use once and you have to go and replenish. Unfortunately, the human body, until sadly somebody dies out of abuse or being over-trafficked, they have hundreds, if not thousands, of opportunities to reap the reward from it.
Are there any specific cases that you can show that it's not only about the numbers, but also about specific people?
Yes, absolutely. As a trustee of Stop the Traffic, we run a data hub. It's the most advanced collection of data regarding trafficking in the world, as far as we are aware. And there are a number of NGOs and other organizations, including prosecutorial and government authorities, that contribute to this database. And we are receiving that kind of data all the time. I can give you an example of one particular sophisticated individual, if you would like me to.
Definitely.
Okay, so it could be one of your friends, one of my friends. Imagine a young 25, 26-year-old Ugandan IT specialist. He was looking to improve his life. He answered an advert on one of the well-known employment websites and for a job in Thailand, which is a booming economy, and why wouldn't he? Long story
Great place
short,
to be.
Lovely place to be, but not in his predicament.
Indeed.
So he gets to Thailand, he's paid, they've done his visa, they've put him in a nice hotel. The next thing he knows, he's being driven to where he thinks is his job in Thailand, and he's taken to a boat and physically threatened with death in order to get in this boat, go to Myanmar, and becomes part of the lover boy and the investment scam pig butchering exercise.
And is it a success story that he survived, that your organization supported him to get him out?
It's an amazing story, because in the few seconds that this young man had unsupervised access to the internet, because you can imagine they keep them under strict scrutiny, he managed to contact Stop the Traffic, he managed to give us coordinates, and we notified the international authorities.
And what else you can do actually to stop human trafficking or to support people that are victims of it?
Well, the people that can play the greatest role, Maya, are the organizations that are unwittingly used in any kind of financial scam. So the banks need to play a much more aggressive role. The social media platforms need to pay more attention to the types of accounts and the activity that exists on their accounts. There are many ways, including using AI, that companies and banks can use to detect the kind of traffic, in the sense of communication traffic, that indicates that a scam is going on.
So there's about building the awareness as well and supporting different institutions that can give people the chance to actually, first of all, understand what is going on.
Absolutely. And building the awareness individually is critical. Stop the Traffic has a stop app that people can download, and it reminds them of what to do if they are in doubt. For example, the most simple thing on the Ukraine border, we were advising people, is take a photo of the registration number, take a photo of the driving license of the person that says he's taking you somewhere, and send it to a trusted friend before you get in the car.
Those are simple things that you can do, and it's important to understand that each of us can be a victim of human trafficking, and awareness is the first part. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much indeed.
Now, let's look at how Russia has been quietly indoctrinating thousands of Ukrainian children abducted from their homes in Ukraine.
Время вперед, время назад. Мой Петербург, мой Ленинград.
The Ukrainian website Children of War, more than 19,000 Ukrainian children were illegally deported from Ukraine to Russia. Russia doesn't give any official information about the number of these children. In the beginning of this deportation of Ukrainian children to Russia, these children were placed in these summer camps because there are no other places for them. And propaganda doesn't tell anything about lack of food in these camps for these children or lack of sleeping places, nothing. Ukrainian children are told that the Russian military saved them from Ukraine, from war, from so-called Ukrainian nationalists, and that Russia is their home and that Russia is a peaceful, democratic country. They learn Russian national anthem. They go to ordinary Russian schools and as Russian children, and they use Russian textbooks at school, including history books. Crimea is Russian, says Russian propaganda and says Russian historical books. Ukrainian children are taught under the same curriculum as Russian children and are exposed to state propaganda. So, for example, Ukrainian children also take part in different patriotic events and concerts in Russia. Russian children are under propaganda, and Ukrainian children are in the same condition. Putin and Lvova Belova saved Ukrainian children from bombings, and for that they are called criminals. Russian propaganda paints all Europe as ungrateful because Europe, instead of helping to resolve the situation, makes the situation worse. Russia thinks that these Ukrainian children that were illegally deported from Ukraine to Russia are Russian children. So Russia can give them Russian passports and Russian citizenship. And it means that it's extremely difficult for Ukraine to return these children. Russian propaganda has only one narrative. Russia is a hero. Russia saved these Ukrainian children from Ukrainian, so-called Ukrainian nationalists, from bombings.
Polish law enforcement is currently investigating the disappearance of the exiled Belarusian opposition activist Angelika Melnikova. Our next guest is here to tell us about the situation in Belarus and how Lukashenko is treating freedom fighters.
Alina Koushyk, editor-in-chief, Bielsat TV. She's a leading voice in Belarusian independent media, with over 15 years of experience as a journalist, producer, and host. In 2022, she established Stratcoms Belarus, a pioneering initiative dedicated to strategic communications and information resilience. Under her leadership, the organization has led international projects to counter disinformation, support democratic actors, and promote truth in a hostile information environment. Alina Koushyk previously served as the representative for national revival in the United Transitional Cabinet of Belarus.
Alina, welcome, and thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Today we are talking about a difficult topic. There is Polish authorities that are investigating the disappearance of Angelika Melnikova. What is happening in there?
We are all Belarusians asking one question. There is Angelika. We lost contact with Angelika on 25th of March. This was the day, Dzień Woli, or Day of Will, our traditional Belarusian celebration day. And also it was the day of inauguration of Lukashenko. Let's say pseudo-inauguration, because he is not a real president anymore. But
after the recent elections, right?
The recent elections that we had at the beginning of the year. But we lost contact with Angelika Melnikova on exactly this day, 25th of March. And still not much information known about what happened to her. We just know that her kids and her ex-husband are already in Belarus, in Nieswish. This is her hometown, but where is exactly Angelika, we don't know. From the information of Polish authorities, of Minister of Interior, we know that she left European Union a couple of weeks ago, and probably she left to United Kingdom. But where is she now? Nobody knows.
But you knew that she left? You were in constant touch with her? Can you tell a bit more about Angelika?
Angelika Melnikova, this is a bright person. She is a speaker of Coordination Council. Coordination Council is a kind of parliament for Belarusian democratic forces. I also was a member of Coordination Council. That's why I know Angelika. She's very motivated, very focused on work person. She comes from business. She was one of CEOs of Coca-Cola in Belarus. In her previous life, as we say it, when she was in Belarus. And then she was working close in her exile with Pavel Latushka's team, National Anti-Crisis Management. Then she became a speaker of Coordination Council. And I know she put a lot of efforts on moving forward and cooperation of Belarusian democratic forces and our counterparts, for example, German parliament or other parliaments, just to rise up a Belarusian issue in many parliamentaries in the world. That's why I was so surprised that I heard this news. My last contact with Angelika was in February. Then she was preparing visit of Coordination Council to Kyiv. And I know that she didn't come. She thought the last information they received that she got COVID and she left home. She was sick and nobody touched her because everybody was thinking that she just had COVID.
So the question is there, right? And there are no pretty much leads and no contact with her whatsoever.
No contact with her. There were some signs that her gadgets were in Belarus, but maybe if kids are there, I'm thinking that maybe iPad or something, you know, which can belong to Angelika is in Belarus. That's why maybe there's a kind of sign of her gadgets in Belarus. But according to Polish authorities, she's rather not in Belarus.
And are there any leads? What could have happened to her?
There are just some speculations. No facts. But in our history of Belarusian democratic movement, we had loud disappearance. For example, Yuri Zakharenko, Belarusian ex-minister of Interior. He was disappeared in 1999 and nobody can find him. It was a mysterious disappearing of a person who was a direct enemy of Alexander Lukashenko. Probably he was killed. Now we have a lot of versions what happened, but never he was found. Of course, we all hope that Angelika will find, we can find her quickly, but till each more day, every day, when we don't have any contact, we're starting to be worried more and more and more, because I believe if she could be in Belarus, Belarusian authorities definitely will show her up, trying to underline that we've got you, put a piece of information or disinformation for Belarusians who are in the country and abroad, because what propaganda is trying to do is to split Belarusians, trying to show that, you see, your democratic forces are not that successful.
And so far, nothing like this is happening, right? There's no leads also from the Belarusian government.
Exactly, and this is really disturbing, because as we know in many examples, if they have a person, they're trying to make a confession. We have a special genre of television, of propaganda television, which they call confession video. Then I say, I'm Alina, I was mistaken, that I supported Tsikhanovskaya, I really don't want to do it anymore. And this is like a special genre of propaganda, which they use very often to make a discreditation of those people. But of course, we all understand that all of these confessions are made by force, and people just have to do this.
Because Belarusian security services are right now targeting the activists that live in the exile even more than they did before, correct?
Exactly, and recently we had information that around 10 special groups, special operation groups, are acting here in Poland and in other countries, but mostly in Poland and Lithuania, trying to threaten activists and politicians who are direct enemies of Alexander Lukashenko. And with this, see that even the fact that the inauguration of, so-called inauguration of Lukashenko was on the day of will, on the 25th of March, it was like a special sign that I'm fighting you each day, and in this day I will show you who is the winner. But we definitely understand that Lukashenko is not a winner in the situation. But of course he is using the situation we've got in Belarus, trying to tight the people who are.
And are there any specific methods that they use in order to threaten activists?
There are direct threats. There are acts, then the bots are attacking you in social media. We as Belsat often see the attacks of bots who are trying to say that, oh, what is there? You are lying, and trying to disrupt our narratives. So this is what we are doing. But also, please remember that in Belarus, not any free press left. All Belarusian media are in exile. That's why working from abroad is extremely important and very difficult at the moment, because we don't have journalists on the ground.
And there is more and more evidence as well of showing that influence operations are also targeted Polish soil, for example, coming from the Belarusian services.
Yeah, exactly. And the recent example is that Belarusian on the border with Belarus, they found some kind of bomb material from bomb making that somebody from Poland wanted to come to Belarus, and exactly this was targeted as a disinformation operation, and they say that a guy who is Ukrainian by his citizenship come with these materials to Belarus for a special mission, but of course everybody knows that it's not possible.
Alina, thank you so much. Thank you for sharing the story, and I hope that Angelika will be found soon.
Thank you.
Thank you. According to EU statistics, nearly 11,000 people were victims of human trafficking in the bloc in 2023. If you think human trafficking isn't a problem in the West, well, think again. With no rules on the internet, traffickers are finding ways to lure victims easier than ever before. So the next time you see a promise of a job that's too good to be true, or a beautiful person trying to spark up an online relationship, think twice if it's real, and what the other person's true intentions are. And remember, till next time, keep calm and think deeply.